What's up, party people? My name is Sunny Ray. It's the Sunny Ray Show. So I have a very interesting guest to finish off the day today. His name is Scott Hardy. Scott was on the internet before the web existed. He joined AOL in 1995 in tech support and wrote it from 100,000 subscribers to over 30 million, working his way up to IT operations manager, running networks for Arizona. So then the dot-com bubble burst and he was loading cargo at Delta for $15 an hour. He rebuilt through Sprint Nextel, eTelecare, and Limelight Networks. And in 2008, in the middle of a financial crisis, he founded Top Class Actions on one brutal statistic. Roughly 95% of consumer class action settlements go unclaimed. TCA became the world's most popular site for class action websites. So with that said, I'm going to bring on Scott. How you doing, Scott?
Great, Sonny. How are you? Thanks for having me on. Great to see you.
Yeah. Are you calling in from Arizona right now?
I am. I am in sunny Sholo, Arizona, which is a 3-hour drive from Phoenix, but we're 6,600 feet in elevation. So it's
Oh,
whatever the low is in Phoenix, that's our high. So it's just a lot cooler, great place to be in the summer.
okay. Okay. I've driven through the area once or twice, but well, happy to have you here. Maybe take us right into the deep end. What is top class actions, and then why are you building it?
So I started Top Class Actions 18 years ago. I was always a tech guy, but I was flipping through a magazine and I saw an advertisement for the Airborne Health Supplement Settlement. Now, you might be too young to remember these little fizzy tablets you dropped into water so you didn't get a cold. They were a big trend in the early
Uh,
2000s.
maybe I just look young then, but no, I definitely had those.
Okay, good.
My
Well, you're
mom used
aging
to give it
well.
to me every morning. Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things that everybody I knew had taken this thing because everybody got colds. And this with this settlement, if you bought the product and you bought enough of them, you could claim $63. No proof of purchase, no box, nothing. Just go online, spend 60 seconds, and in theory, get a check for 63 bucks. And so I reached out to my friends and I said, "Hey, are you aware of this settlement?" And nobody had heard of it. And I went, "Man, there's got to be a website which tracks these easy to claim settlements." And there wasn't, so I built it.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So let's back up a little bit. So what did that I guess yeah, just you grew up in, is it
I was in
Tucson?
Tucson.
Am I saying
Yeah,
it right?
Tucson,
Tucson, right?
Arizona.
And
I
your
was,
dad was a Vietnam vet, right? Who
yeah,
turned down the CEO job at Safelite so he could move the family for your mom's health, right? So then quietly struggled for years building his financial planning practice. Well, what did watching that teach you about, what a founder actually signs up for?
well, I think a lot of it taught me about fatherhood. And I didn't know it then because I didn't know my parents were struggling financially. We lived on the outskirts of Tucson, in a nice middle class area. But like, I didn't know that my bicycle, my first bike that I ever had, was secondhand. It was used. And my dad had waited to close a deal. And then I had been wanting a bicycle as a kid. He's like, "Hey, do you want that bike that's up there on the hill?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." He's like, "Great." And he had already bought it and he had placed it there. And he's like, "I bought this for you." And so I think a lot of it was, I didn't appreciate this till I was an adult, was I didn't know there was a struggle. I didn't know my dad, decided to do the same thing I did, which was leave his day job and start anew on an entrepreneurial venture. And he did as the financial planner. And so I think that really, as I got older, I understood how hard sales really was, but it was incredibly helpful to me to have an entrepreneur father to run things by. And I remember I was still working for Limelight Networks. I had just closed a deal where I was going to make, I thought, 50 to $100,000 a month from one client. And I said, "Dad, I'm ready to quit. I'm good to go. I don't have to, I should put in my notice now. I'm looking at offices." And my dad said to me, he said, "Son, before you quit, get that second check in the mail. So the first check isn't that hard sometimes. If you're a good talker, you're a personable guy, you're a good salesperson. It's the second check that really matters. And that's what happened is I got my first check. That was great. The second check, I call my guy and it just went completely backwards. And I didn't get paid again from that client. And so if I hadn't had my dad to give me some sage advice, I might have just been, a super excited guy who was 32 at that point and been like all of a sudden out of my day job. Instead, I worked my day job for 4 years until I was put into the situation where I could go full time on top class actions.
That's super interesting. That's a great story. So you were at AOL starting in
Mhm.
1995 before the web was, really a thing. And you
Yeah.
wrote it from 100,000 to something like 30 million subscribers. So what did being inside that kind of like hyper growth do to your sense of like what's possible?
It was so awesome. I was so happy that I was able to be there for that time. I was a hacker back in the late 80s and 90s. I had my 2400 baud modem cracked into local banks and community colleges just for fun back then. And that was what got me the job at AOL was working tech support for a local bulletin board system. Digital Concept BBS. Great guys. I was doing some tech support for them. I get into AOL and I'm talking and I'm just surrounded by people like me, just hardcore nerds that just love technology, love computers. And it was so awesome. And you just saw how much AOL just put the foot on the accelerator for growth. It went from when I was there, we were still giving out little 3.5-inch discs in every computer magazine you could buy. And then, of course, we kept upgrading the software and it became CD-ROMs. And we had a big Tucson team day at an old Tucson, which was a movie studio and entertainment complex. And Steve Case, the founder of AOL, was out there and just talking to everybody. And it was so cool to see a founder doing that. Steve Case was just is an incredible entrepreneur, and how he grew the business. Something that he had early on was the Steve Case newsletter, and that was a letter from Steve to all of the members, and that's what I based my Top Class Actions newsletter on. And my first email, because when I started Top Class Actions, I had no viewers, right? And I had no budget. I was bootstrapping the entire thing. So I could only focus on organic traffic growth. But I knew email and newsletters could help. So I sent out my first newsletter to 24 friends and family, and then just had a newsletter sign up. But in every one of those newsletters, and still today, in every Tuesday newsletter, there's an update from me. I talk about me, my wife, my kids, my dogs. I include a picture now of the latest happenings. And that exposure to Steve Case and what he did is what helped. It gave me the idea for that newsletter. And now that newsletter drives hundreds of thousands of viewers a month to our website. I have 1 million people on it.
Whoa, that's wild. I love that.
Yeah.
So Scott, you went from managing IT for 355,000 square foot facilities to loading cargo at Delta for $15 an hour after
Yeah.
the dot-com crash. Can you walk me through that stretch? What kept you going?
Well, it was hard. So I get let go from AOL, but my confidence is still high. I'm like, I got these skills. But a problem was I had stagnated. I was surrounded by incredible IT people. And so my IT skills I had not kept current. And so then I'm trying to do some IT consulting, but on the hardcore network side, I just wasn't as great as I used to be. And my heart wasn't in it. And then my marriage fell apart. And so, I went from a guy who I, I put in a pool at my house and they said, "What's your budget?" I'm like, "I don't care about a budget. What I want is a waterfall I can jump off of into the pool and a giant hot tub." They're like, "Scott, what's a budget?" I'm like, "Who cares a budget? Just build this." Okay. I spent $100,000 on a pool and a hot tub. And it was awesome. But Then all of a sudden I'm out of work and can't find a job as a mid-level IT manager in Tucson. And I was working at a call center for a brief while that I was qualified to run. And a buddy of mine was just like, hey, come work at Delta. You'll get free flights. I was like, you know what? Maybe this is how I restart my career and do it. But working at Delta was, we shipped everything from dead bodies to fighting chickens to pets and blood and organs. And so it was interesting from that perspective, but it just wasn't intellectually challenging enough for me to really grow. So, I mean, you go from the top of the world to all of a sudden you're getting divorced and blowing through your savings. And when I got the call to go with Nextel Partners to Vegas, I was essentially broke. And my house sold, my ex-wife and I paid off all of our debt. And then I walked into Vegas with 15 grand in my pocket. And that was when I started there. And that was also awesome. Had a really good time, single in Vegas, and meeting new people, just a really fresh start in an exciting town. It's Las Vegas. I mean, come on. And then thankfully, that's where I met my wife. And now we
Oh
just
wow.
passed 20 years of marriage. So that's pretty awesome.
I'll save mine for another day, but my wife and I we met in Toronto, but we got married in Vegas, and
And
we're gonna do
my
our
wife, she
yeah.
was born in Toronto.
No way. We
Yeah.
just celebrated our 15-year
Oh, well
anniversary last
done.
weekend, so
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Cool. So you spent years in like I guess after that you went to Sprint, Nextel, eTelecare,
Mhm.
Limelight, and you spent years in sales and operations at other people's companies before starting your own at your mid 30s, right? So why
Yeah.
did it take that long, and what was the and was the like the timing right in hindsight?
Well, I got forced into going full time on top class actions because you work in tech, you've got a great job, you work with great people, you make good money. And I loved it. I mean, Limelight was awesome. Limelight worked with HBO to help develop the HBO Go app, and HBO was my client there. And so I was just at the forefront of streaming and just really cool tech and awesome people. And then I accepted a job with a group called Level 3. And they offered the wheelbarrow full of money to make me move, right? And they said, Scott, we're the world's largest startup. And I went there and I had like 4 or 5 managers in that 1 year I was there. It was just a roller coaster. But I had already started top class actions and we were starting, building up some revenue. I had figured out how to make some money there. And then I got fired for being a prima donna sales guy at Level 3. And it took me like 4 years to accept that I would have fired me too. But it was hard. And my wife and I were sitting at our original house in Phoenix on the patio. Back when I used to drink, I've been sober now 7.5 years. So I was probably having a cigar and having a drink on the patio. And she said, so what are your options now, honey? Because we got a baby. Might have had 2 babies at that point. And oh yeah, we had 2 babies at that point. And she's like, she's not working. She goes, I can go back to work. She's a speech pathologist. She's super smart. She could go back to work. And she goes, you can look for your job or figure out top class actions. And I was like, no. Don't go back to work. I don't want to miss your moment. But let me see if I can make top class actions work. Because my problem then is I was just selling advertising to class action lawyers. And if you were a class action lawyer and you said, hey, Scott, I want to sue Apple because there's an antenna problem in the iPhone, then I would run an investigation on top class actions. You'd get your plaintiffs, you'd file your case, and then you'd be gone for 3 to 6 months. And so my revenue just did this. And so then I got into mass torts. And those are what you might see on TV. Like, were you exposed to Roundup or did you get mesothelioma from exposure to asbestos? Or, Americans were seeing all the Camp Lejeune ads. And those cases people think are class actions, but a class action is one case filed by one person. And then when it's settled, everybody shares that main settlement, but it's much lower dollar amount. Could be single dollars, tens of dollars, or hundreds of dollars. While a mass tort is you were exposed to this dangerous drug or medical device and you had severe injuries. You were in the hospital and you had tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills. And those cases run for years. But when people searched for them back then, they would search for Actos bladder cancer class action. And so I was able to write content saying Actos bladder cancer class action, and people would come to my site. And so I called up my buddy Greg Jones, who wasn't a buddy then, he was a client. And I said, hey, Greg, we had tried to run this campaign for you a year ago. Back then, I only had 30,000 people a month on the website. Now I have 60,000 people a month on the website. Just tell me what you want to run. I'll do it for free for a month and hopefully work out a rate. If not, no harm, no foul, hope you get free clients. And he said, sure thing, buddy. I want mesothelioma and asbestosis and Actos bladder cancer and vaginal mesh and a couple of other things. And I ran it. I wrote all the content because I couldn't afford to pay my writers to write it for me. And it worked. And I doubled my monthly revenue, then doubled again the next month and the next month. And because all those campaigns continuously run, I just had this. So I had that viable business. And if I had not gotten fired from level 3, I probably wouldn't have gotten forced into it. I would have just kept coasting with paying for nice vacations and work cars, It's funny how life works.
Wow. Yeah, isn't it? That's wild. So,
Yeah.
you said that you were on the internet, before the World Wide Web even existed. So what was young Scott doing online in the early days? And did any of it foreshadow what kind of came later?
Yeah, I mean, I was, I convinced my very first job. Well, and so it goes back even further. Is my parents, great models of, a great husband and wife model, would always go on at least one vacation a year without me and my brother. And one of those times they'd have someone from our church watch us. And one of those guys happened to be a professor of computer science at the University of Arizona. And he saw me on my computer just tapping around playing Zork or something like that. And he said, have you heard of the internet? And I'm like, what's that? And he goes, well, it's a network that connects all of the universities around the world. Here, let me go ahead and hook up my modem to your computer. So he hooked up his modem and he dialed into the University of Arizona. And, we're just FTPing everywhere. And he goes, oh, right now I'm in Denmark. And let me download this program to your computer. And then, so it downloads to the U of A server first. And then that's very quick because it's a direct connection. Now we're downloading here. We'll come back tomorrow and see how it goes. And I was like, this is awesome. So then my first job, I worked at Kmart. And one of the guys there, I was 17, I think. And maybe he was 18, he was going to the U of A. And I said, hey, can I have your internet account? He's like, what's that? And no one knew about it. But I did. So then I found out how to get his criteria, his information, and I created an internet account for him. And all of a sudden, I had access to the internet from my home through my own dial-up modem. And so all of that dorking around and then war dialing back then, my parents would go to bed and I would just have the modem dial thousands of phone numbers, which is how I got like Bank One's dial in and Pima Community College's dial in back then. And I was a little hacker, but all of that was what got me so excited about AOL. And when I got to AOL, and that was the internet for people, right? They were just like, they would log in and they'd have keywords and you could chat with people and and it was the internet before the internet for most people, except for me and the super nerds who worked at AOL who were already on the internet. Largely, a lot of us were, at least.
I remember AOL, dude. I mean, my first computer was a 386.
Yeah, baby.
So definitely I was around that era. So that's just so fascinating. So you read so you're 6'7" and
I'm
you
a big
played
dude.
ball. right through junior high. So people compare you
Yes.
to like a prize fighter more than a basketball player, someone who I guess keeps getting up. Like, well, where does that come from?
Well, I think to be a successful entrepreneur, somebody said to me once, he said, Scott, being an entrepreneur is going through the day and getting punched in the gut all day long. And then you get up and you go to bed and you're like, oh man, that was rough. That was rough. And you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, let's do it all again. Come on, baby. And I think you have to be prepared to lose and to hear no all the time. And it's just you can't give up. And you have to be, when people tell me, oh, I've got an idea, but I want to tell you about it, let's just sign an NDA. I'm like, just go away. You have to be so passionate about your idea to be successful. And you could tell me the best idea in the world. And I might go, man, that's a great idea. But I'm not going to launch your product or do your thing because I'm not passionate about it. I don't care enough to get punched in the gut 5 times a day to be successful at it. You, with your idea, have to have that ownership. I mean, my first house in Phoenix, like many entrepreneurs, I was out of money, not figuring what I was able to do, had $100,000 line of credit on that house, and put everything on the line again. And then thankfully, came back out on top when all of a sudden I pivoted the business and went into mass torts and had a viable company. And then that allowed me to buy my second house in Phoenix, which then allowed me to buy and build this place up in Sholo, so, but you're going to hit those points in the entrepreneurship journey where people are just going to go, maybe you should just sell. Maybe you should go back to work, and you've got to be passionate enough about it to know that you're going the right direction. And it's still now, it's just different dollar amounts. I mean, back then I'm like, oh man, 10 grand would help. But now it's my payroll's 400,000 a month. And so, I can't drive Uber to pay my people on the weekend. I've got to have enough revenue coming in to take care of everybody.
So you read what, a science fiction or fantasy book a week? Has any of that reading shaped how you think about business or the future?
Well, I think it provides an optimistic view of the future. Just with the world today, you see war, you see fundamentalism, you see communists and capitalists, and there are just so many negative things that come into your life that you can start to go, man, how is this world going to survive? But when you read sci-fi and you read about worlds upon worlds and humanity going out beyond this little green and blue globe we're on, I think it gives you a good sense of optimism about where we can go. And I think that helps. And one of my things is like, I want to live forever and see where humanity goes. We're going to make it to the moon. We'll make it to the moon again. We're going to make it to Mars. Are we going to eventually, be living on blimps in the Venusian atmosphere, because you could breathe the atmosphere in Venus as long as you don't go below that cloud layer, you could actually live there. Are we going to eventually do stuff like that? I mean, that's all super cool ideas. And I personally want to make it to space one day. So I don't want to just go on a Bezos rocket, even though that would be cool. I want to go up and, be there for a day or two.
Yeah, that'd be fun. So
wait, Sonny. So you're not going to go up
I'm
to
going.
the space station with me? You'll go. Okay.
No, I'm going for sure. I'm definitely going.
I mean, with vast aerospace, they're going to be launching their
100%. No,
commercial
I'm
space
all
station.
about it. I'm all about it. And I'm also about the living forever thing. So I definitely with you on that one as well. So 2008 financial crisis, everyone hunkering down, and you launched this like legal news website, right? So what was the exact moment you saw the gap, like the kind of endless search for class action news landing on trash sites and placeholders. Like, can you kind of go deeper into like the day you really saw that problem and like the
Well,
aha moment?
it was an ideal time when everyone's talking about being broke, and I didn't have much
Mm,
money, right? And so all of a sudden, you've got people that are looking for ways to make more money, and I'm sitting here saying, "Hey, look at this settlement. It's $63. Look at this settlement. Could be thousands of dollars. Look at this one. We had the De Beers diamond settlement, and I got $700 off of that settlement, and that was for their monopoly of the diamond market, and all these things that most people qualified for. So, and the other big thing was the timing was great. You couldn't, I mean, you can do it now, but back then, if you wrote high quality content, Google would send you their traffic.
mm,
And so by me just knowing this and just starting off immediately as a highly SEO optimized website, I
mm.
was able to get that traffic from Google right away. I was able to just start getting hundreds of viewers and thousands of viewers and tens of thousands of viewers. And now we get, 2 to 5 million people a month,
That's
depending on what
wild.
goes viral.
That is wild. That is something else. So, Arizona changed its rules to allow essentially like non-lawyer ownership of law firms, and you, a non-lawyer, build Legify, right? When those ABS rules dropped, how fast did you see the play?
Immediately. So, but again, there's a little bit of luck in everything, right? Where I'd spent, that was 6-ish years ago now, 5 years ago. I'd spent 10 years in the business growing this network of attorneys and friends. And so my buddy Jeff Huff, who's in the litigation finance world, I saw him at Mass Torts Made Perfect. It's one of the largest, it is the largest mass torts conference in the country, in the world, actually. So if you're in the mass torts business, you should be there. I'll see you in October. But Jeff said to me, "Hey, Scott, have you heard that Arizona's changing the rules?" And I went, "What? No." He's like, "Oh, dude, I'll send you the details." I'm like, "Fantastic, man. That's awesome." So I read through it and I'm like, I can own a law firm? I got a year and a half of community college under my belt. I'm just, I just work hard. And we could. So I went through 2 people before I found the right attorney to start the company with me. A gal named Camille Bass. She's a great lawyer. And we went through all the paperwork. We got our paperwork submitted by December of that year that they had just changed the rules. They put us in the January meeting. We got approved immediately. And we just started running. I mean, but again, think about it. If I wasn't based in Arizona, technically I probably could have done it, but it would have been a lot harder. And so, but by me being in Arizona and Arizona changing the rules, I got lucky. And then being able to just immediately just latch onto it. But then I created immediate hardship for myself, which was Top Class Actions was a viable business, making $1 million a year in profit. And then I launched this new law firm with my buddy Dave, put in 100 grand, and that was it. And then we launched the law firm, and I moved about 80% of the advertising campaigns on Top Class Actions, where I used to sell them to other law firms. I took them over to Legify and said Legify as a sponsor. And so that way I could help the clients directly and then make sure that I get a piece of the attorney's fees through my law firm. And so I went from having a profitable business to having 2 money losing businesses within a year. And that wasn't pleasant or fun, because with Top Class Actions, I was just plateauing at like $5-6 million a year. And I just couldn't get above it. No matter when I tried different cases or anything like that, I was just stuck there. And now we'll do 8 figures. This year will be the first year.
Amazing, amazing. So you were telling earlier about how you made Top Class Actions cash flow positive in year 1, right?
Yeah.
Bootstrapped. No outside capital, or was that the 100K you mentioned? Or no?
No,
Okay.
no, that was just me. And because it was funny. So don't tell my friends at Limelight Networks, but when I would go on these business trips to go and see clients, I
Mm-hmm.
would always try to find one potential top class actions client out there too. And so I go out and I meet a very good friend of mine now, name is Troy Hoffman. He was the founder of a class action settlement administrator called Simpluris. And so, I'd done my meetings during the day for Limelight. And then I go out and I meet with Troy at 6 o'clock at night. And as a fellow founder and entrepreneur, he's there in the office working at 6 o'clock, right? And so he takes me on this tour of his office. He's like, oh, this is where the people mail out all the envelopes with the checks and the claim forms. Oh, this is where my call center is. We'll talk to them. This is my sales area. These are my executives. And we sit down in his office. He's like, I know we're not a big deal like top class actions. So what are you talking about, man? He's like, well, you get like hundreds of thousands of people a month. And I'm on your website. You have what, 10 people on your team? And I go, oh, no, it's all me. He said, what? I'm like, no, yeah, all those people are made up. Those are just pictures I stole, names I made up. It's because otherwise Google wouldn't rank me as a Google News authority if they thought it was just one person writing all of the content. And he laughed. He's like, well, you had me, brother. That was it. But it was really, since I had my day job, when I started the company, I had the luxury of I could put as much work as I could into top class actions. And that's, as soon as money started coming in, since I wasn't paying a salary, I was just paying hosting fees, right? A couple $100 a month. And so me saying I'm cash flow positive year one is technically true. I sold one advertising campaign for $9,000 that first year. And my hosting bills were probably $1,000. But, there weren't any employees. It wasn't until that meeting with Troy where he said, you don't have any writers? And I said, actually, I'm at that point now. We're bringing in like 20, 30 grand a month. I think now's the time to bring on a writer, a contract writer. And he said, well, my girlfriend's roommate is the gal named Sarah. I want to give her a maiden name. So, her name's Sarah Mirando. And she was writing for Entrepreneur, all these things. He introduced me to Sarah. She became the very first employee as a contractor. And then when we made that big pivot to mass torts, she was the first full-time employee. And now she's been with me for more than 10 years, 15 years. She had a slight little break in between where she went out to the big corporate world. We call it her walkabout. But then I got her back. And she's awesome. She's running my whole marketing team.
Cool. So I guess before we switch gears, like your intake said something really blunt. You said using AI and agentic keywords in conversation is stupid. And if you weren't in machine learning before AI was a thing, then you're way behind. So when did you first put machine learning to work at TCA, and what did those years teach you that the hype crowd is missing right now?
Well, it was funny because with my experience with Limelight Networks, I knew I wanted to be on a CDN. I knew I wanted to do some more stuff with video. I knew social was really important. And so I was able to do all those things right away, make sure that our website was mirrored across the US via CDN for speed. And then we look at machine learning. Top Class Actions gets tens of thousands of submissions every month, along with hundreds of thousands of comments every month. And so before AI was a buzzword, we were saying, all right, how can we use machine learning to go through these comments, go through these submissions, retarget, as long as people opted in, so we can retarget them to say, hey, you bought an iPhone, and by the way, there's now a class action regarding this Apple product. Did you buy this one too? And be able to use our data in the wisest way possible. And right with the very first iterations of AI, we trained our own AI engines to write our content. And so now the bulk of the content, and this was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we went and wrote the AI engines to write all of our content, and it's all edited by humans. So everything That's why you don't see AI slop on top class actions, because a person does review every single thing that goes through. And the editorial side has been near and dear to my heart. I don't like seeing any mistakes. It cracks me up when you see like a massive name brand magazine or newspaper and they have a misspelling or the wrong word. Or I was just saw a post for an update on, I think it was Zaxby's, which is a Southern focused chicken wing and chicken finger restaurant. They opened their first one in Santan Village, I believe, in Phoenix, the Phoenix area. And this is the newspaper. This is a local Arizona newspaper, Phoenix newspaper. They said, look at all the new people here on August 24th or whatever it was. Like, no, that was July. And because they did it on every single picture, and there were like a dozen pictures, it had the wrong date on it. I'm like, you're a newspaper. You should have this right. But that's what we've done is we've tried to stay at the forefront on technology, right? You know, using AI to write our content, using AI and machine learning to manage our data. And now we've got our search bar on top class actions. It's all AI. So it bugged me. And people are like, "Ooh, Scott, what do you do with AI?" And I said, "Did you just learn that term?" And maybe it's just the irascible hacker in me that's just like, yeah, AI is just machine learning. It's been around for 20 years. You know, you guys are just getting excited about it now. But that's just the dorkiness in me where I'm like, it's not AI, it's just machine learning. What is AI? Now it's agentic AI. I'm like, oh, okay. I got you. Go ahead and get back with your open AI app and then tell me what I'm missing.
So you're building an AI platform, right, on top of a site that already pulls what, like 2 to 3 million organic users a month by
Yeah.
your numbers. So what does the platform actually do for a consumer landing on top class actions?
Our whole point at Top Class Actions is to connect.
It's got, you're not gonna mind if I take a bite of my burrito, are you? My wife just like
Feel
delivered
free.
homemade. My 11-year-old made. She's getting into cooking, and so yesterday she made Thai food, and today she made burritos. So I'm kind of interested to
Yes.
see what it tastes like.
Yes. Feed the
Winning,
dad. That's
winning.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Please. So we're building this whole AI platform to make sure that we're helping our consumers get access to as many lawsuits as they qualify for. And that was the big reason we started Top Class Actions, is we want people to claim this money. 95% of class action settlements used to go unclaimed, and that's BS. You qualify, you should be able to get your 10, 20, 30, 50, $100, or like with the diamond settlement, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. That's money that you're just letting go away. So the whole piece of the AI engine without behind Top Class Actions is to say, hey, by the way, did you buy this product? Did you use this product? Make sure to submit your claim. And oh, were your kids, you know, did you have a daughter that suffered from being exposed to social media? And did they develop body dysmorphia or eating disorders or other problems, suicidal ideation? If we can get our viewers connected to more lawsuits and settlements they qualify for, then we're helping them increase how much money they're going to be able to make. And we get submissions every single month from our viewers who thank us. And I tell people, you're not going to get rich off being a subscriber to my newsletter, but it's going to buy you dinner. It's going to pay for maybe additional vacations. You know, I get people, our diehards, that are submitting claims for everything they qualify for every month, and they're getting thousands of dollars a year back. And when you live paycheck to paycheck, and all of a sudden you make a couple extra $1,000 a year, I mean, that's rent. That's huge.
Yeah, for sure. So the flywheel now spans 3 companies. TCA finds the plaintiffs, the Legify represents them, and then Trimaxion
Trimaxion,
funds the
yeah.
litigation, right? Trimaxion. So was that architecture deliberate from the start, or did each piece kind of like reveal the next?
Each piece revealed the next. It was all necessity, right? So we had Top Class Actions, and I'm going, man, why am I plateauing my revenue? I wish I was a lawyer. And then, poof, I'm able to start my own law firm. And then I started my own law firm, and I moved all that, I deferred all that revenue out years. And so all of a sudden I'm broke and I've got 30, 40 people on my team. I'm like, how am I going to pay them every month if I'm waiting to get paid attorney's fees now? And I had the idea. I watch a group called the All In Podcast with Jason Calacanis, Chamath Palihapitiya, David Friedberg, David Sachs. Great, interesting group of just highly successful, brilliant entrepreneurs. And one day, Jason and David Sachs were talking about how they created a gambling syndicate and that they could just back a blackjack player and then to split the winnings. And I'm like, a syndicate? Is that legal? Can I create investment syndicates to allow people to invest in cases? And so I looked into the legality of it, and it turns out it was legal. And so then I was able to go out and raise individual funds for each specific case. So our first focus was focused on premature baby formula that allegedly gives babies necrotizing enterocolitis. 60% of those babies die. Our second fund was focused on video game addiction. Our third fund is focused on social media harm. And we were able to raise a couple $1 million from investors, accredited investors, that we loan that money to the law firm, who then spends it at top class actions. And that's what saved my bacon from going bankrupt in the last couple of years, because I didn't have the money. And so poof, all of a sudden I've got operating capital, and then my investors should make 2 to 5x their investment.
Incredible. So you call it access to justice for billions of people. Can you connect the dots for me? Like, how does an investor writing a check into a syndicate translate into a regular person getting their settlement?
Well, because it's all about spreading the word, and most people just aren't aware of these lawsuits. And so by getting investor capital in, we're able to run advertising, run additional marketing, get additional people signed up who qualify for these lawsuits. And so we're really increasing access to justice by getting more people representation. And if we didn't have this additional funding, then we wouldn't be able to get these people representation, and they wouldn't be able to hold these defendants account and then get paid, in many cases, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars.
Interesting. Hey, a couple more questions here. So where does AI genuinely change the economics of case acquisition, and where is it just noise? Like, you own the channel, right? So most firms rent it. Like, how wide is that moat in an AI world?
So naturally, we made sure that we're not only SEO optimized, right? We're optimized for AI from a website perspective. And then when we think about people going to OpenAI and, ChatGPT and searching for help, there's still not a data layer where people are able to submit claims directly through the AI engine. Happy to chat with OpenAI about building that. We could easily build that and connect that layer, or Anthropic or anyone else. That would be something that'd be really easy for us to do. But I think even with AI, people still have to get notified of what they qualify for. And that's why you'll have a top class actions. You'll have the lawyers who are trying to spread the word, is that these are legitimate cases that people qualify for, and you're trying to get them justice. And if it's a mass tort, you had the social media harm trial that started, that was in May, and that was a $6 million verdict for one plaintiff, one gal who got addicted to Instagram. And she got $6 million, half from Meta, half from Google. Well, the next social media trial is starting on Monday. And of the defendants, Snapchat settled before the trial. TikTok settled before the trial. Google settled before the trial. Only Meta's left. And so right now, we'll see if Zuckerberg's going to come back out and testify again. But he's in a very difficult situation because the average consumer doesn't like him. And so you get a jury, and you're going to guarantee that even if they're not big on Instagram or Facebook, they probably don't like the founder and the CEO of the company. And that puts them at a terrible disadvantage being sued, because if you're in the jury, you automatically don't like the guy. I really think that Mark should settle the cases, not just because I've got 1,000 clients, but I think that he's got an uphill battle, and we know the science behind it. If you want a little behind the scenes, which is super nerdy, and maybe it's too nerdy to be interesting, but one of the people on the jury had never been on a computer. This is for the trial in May. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Never been on a computer. He might have owned a flip phone, but there was just like, he was not a tech guy. And so Mark Lanier, who has won billions in these trials, had to stop with his trial team and go, how do I connect with the guy to tell them that technology is addictive and he's never used a computer? So they printed out all of the profile pictures that the plaintiff had uploaded to Instagram over like 15 years. And it was like a 6-foot tall printout and just dozens and dozens and dozens of feet long, to be able to show this is how much she was on this all day, every day. And these are all of her profile pictures to give. And you said you saw the juror's head move like, oh, this is what it does to you. She's going to go ahead. It's like a 30-foot long, or it's a massively long banner with just all these small little pictures of her profile picture showing how much she uploaded it. And that was one of the key pieces that made him understand that this is how addictive this platform is. Sorry, a little litigated stuff.
Hey, Scott, do you have a hard stop? Can you go over a few minutes? So I'm almost done here, but I just wanted to ask you one or two more questions.
Yeah, sure.
So legal is one of the most like regulated industries on earth, right? Ethics rules, advertising rules, ABS structures. Like, what's the regulatory fight of the next like 5 years, and which side wins?
Well, you have tort reform right now, and it was funny, even on Twitter X, you had them bashing trial lawyers because they said trial lawyers are fighting against full self-driving. And that's not the case. Most of the plaintiff lawyers I know, a lot of them have Teslas and use full self-driving. What the people who are saying that message about trial lawyers are the insurance companies. And most of the Tort Reform Act and all these things about tort reform are all about taking away individuals' rights to sue. And so naturally, trial lawyers are saying, hey, we want the right to get justice for our consumers or clients out there. And that's the thing, is that you had full self-driving that is they're trying to pass this across on a nationwide basis, saying, hey, you can't sue whoever makes that full self-driving if there's an accident. And the trial lawyers are going, no. We support full self-driving, but we just want to have the ability to represent our clients if they get in an accident and full self-driving is at fault. So I think it's important for consumers and the average American citizen to know is you have a right to justice. You have a right to a trial by jury. And so you need to make sure that you secure that right and that you don't give away to the insurance companies your ability to get justice. And I had a buddy of mine who ripped on me with top class actions. Oh, you're just, fighting for these rich people, and, the consumer never gets what they deserve, and class actions don't help people. And then his grandfather got mesothelioma, and he reached out to me and he said, hey, what can I do? And I said, hey, I'm happy to help, but I got to connect you with those lawyers that you didn't seem to like very much. And he said, no, he's got mesothelioma. I want to make sure he gets, the family gets taken care of. I said, absolutely. And I connected to my friends from Simmons, Stanley Conroy, top asbestos lawyers in the country. They flew out immediately and met with him. And you can't give away your right as an American or as a Canadian. Class actions are massive in Canadian provinces as well to get justice. And we're seeing this, especially now with the rise of, you've got Mondami in New York, right? And the rights of the people. Well, with the rights of the people, I mean, you can't give away your pursuit of justice. And it's a fine line that people ride where they just go ahead and say something like, oh, I want full self-driving. And then the big corporation, the trillion-dollar corporation behind it, is the one saying, great, well, just sign this, making it legal, and then you can't sue me if you get hurt. And it's not us saying we don't want this to work. We want it to work. We just want the right to represent people. And like for me as my ABS, I have to reapply for my law license every 2 years. It's much more difficult for me to run a law firm as a non-lawyer than it is for a lawyer who, gets their JD, passes the bar, and then starts a law firm. They start a law firm, they never have to reapply again. For me, every 2 years. So we have to make sure that everything we do is ethically acceptable, that we're doing everything by the book, that, we don't get any bar complaints, that we're sitting here helping everybody we can. Because I know that every 2 years I'm up in front of that committee saying, yes, we are fighting to increase access to justice. That was a long answer, Sonny. Sorry.
That's okay. I asked. So I guess help me land the plane with this one. Paint the 10-year picture. If TCA, Legify, and Trimaxium all work, what does the class action industry look like, and what does Scott Hardy's role in it look like?
You'll have an app on your phone. That's the Top Class Actions app. It's launching in the next couple months. And it will automatically tell you everything you qualify for. And that's here in the US, that's in Canada, that will be across Europe and the UK. Where also mass litigation is a thing and growing. So in 10 years, Top Class Actions will be ubiquitous. Legify Law will be just the national law firm. At least in the US, we'll probably have somebody similar in each large country we work with. But in 10 years, you're just going to know, and you'll be automatically notified every time there's a case that impacts you. And then we'll be able to submit the claims on your behalf or make it very streamlined. We want to maximize the money that goes in your pocket. So, we don't necessarily want to submit the claim. We just want you to be able to push a button, and then that money, that claim will automatically go from the Top Class Actions app to Angian or one of the other Simploris or one of the other settlement administrators or Epic, and your claim submitted. And then you'll just get a notification, hey, poof, and then the money will go straight to your PayPal or X Money or your bank or Zelle or wherever you want it. And it should all be streamlined. And it should result in consumers getting paid faster with technology. So you'll know you qualify for more cases. You'll know the status of every single case you qualify for. You'll know, and you'll get that money faster. Instead of taking 5 years for a case, hopefully they'll be wrapping up in 2 to 3 years.
Awesome. Cool, Scott. Thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it. All of you who have tuned in to listen to us live and people in the future, thank you all. Scott, where do people learn more about you? Where do people learn more about the companies?
LinkedIn is best. If you're trying to get a hold of me, you can try LinkedIn, but if you reach out through Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Top Class Actions, on all of those channels, my team will connect you with me if we need to chat. So that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Awesome. Scott, just hang out for 1 minute. I'm going to bring this stream to an end. I'll see you on the other side. Thank you all. Take care. Cheers. Until next time.
Thanks, Sonny.